Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. I'm really excited to introduce our guest today. I'm joined today by Tyler Dimich. He is a senior social media manager at ESPN. Tyler, how's it going today, man?
It's awesome. I'm out in Los Angeles. I work in downtown LA, right across from the Staples Center, which is a big hub for sports and an exciting place to be. And looking forward to talking to you, Logan.
Especially right now, man. Well, we're going to be talking about 3 specific lessons that B2B marketers can learn from the way ESPN approaches social media marketing. For some context, to let people know who you are, what you've been up to, what you and your team at ESPN are doing these days. Give folks a little bit of background on yourself, your team, what you guys are up to these days.
Yeah, so I started in Bristol, Connecticut, which is where ESPN's headquarters are. I was a production assistant working on TV, helping out shows, everything from running a teleprompter to cutting highlights. And after a couple of years, I moved out to LA and then moved into the social media space where I've been producing content for a couple of years for different shows, different brands. ESPN has, 10 to 15 different brands that exist on social media. Actually, probably more than that, including our talent and on-air presence. But we have so many brands across so many different areas that we service and produce content for. So some of the two most recognizable ones are ESPN and SportsCenter. And those have like 35 million followers on Twitter or 15 million on Instagram. And it's kind of my team's job to uphold and keep those accounts flowing and fresh with new and creative content.
Yeah, as a follower myself, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. And so that's why I was really excited to have you unpack a few of the things that you guys are thinking about, the tactics that you employ as you're managing multiple accounts, multiple brands, because I think that there's a lot for B2B marketers to learn from the way that you guys are approaching social. So the 3 things we're going to talk about today, Tyler, are meeting followers where they are, using effective storytelling, and humanizing the brand. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about how you guys think about this first strategy of meeting followers, or really anyone, where they are when it comes to your social media strategy?
Absolutely. So ESPN's mission statement is serving sports fans anytime, anywhere. So we want to meet fans and followers where they are and deliver our product to them. That's what social media kind of allows us to do. That's the magic of social media is we know that outside of watching your TV, where ESPN was born and made its name, you're now getting your content from so many other avenues, whether it's Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. And we want to make sure that we're extending ourselves into those spaces. So instead of trying to always drive fans to maybe our home product, which is our TV programs and networks, because that's what's driving the most revenue for us, we want to make sure that we're taking our product and actually moving it to you and to where you are. We want to meet you on Instagram. We want to meet you on Twitter. We want to meet you on YouTube, on TikTok. We want to extend and be in the space natively with you so that we're kind of walking around in the same area versus asking you to come meet us where we are on TV or on ESPN.com and in those other spaces that we've kind of created and are maybe most helpful for us. And we're expecting that if we meet you where you're at, then ultimately you're going to come back to our home platforms and remember ESPN for what it is on TV and what it is on online and its digital presence.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we've kind of gotten lost a little bit in the last 10 years of marketing. The whole shift to inbound and content marketing was supposed to be to deliver value so that you attract people. But I see a lot of folks kind of missing the mark there, kind of taking the opposite mentality of what you're unpacking there, Tyler, in, okay, we're putting out content where people are, but it's really just a hook in the water. We just want to get them hooked and trick them or get them in any means, by any means necessary, back to assets that we own, whether that's your TV programming, or for a lot of B2B brands, that's their homepage. And we forget this idea of meeting them where they are. It's a little bit slower play, right? You're meeting them where they are, and not just directly trying to get them back to an asset that you own, but just delivering value and doing it consistently. And so it is maybe the lesson there for B2B marketers to not always be thinking about what's that call to action. Every piece of content we put out on social needs to be measured based on how much traffic it drives back to an asset that we own.
Yeah, so I like that frame of reference, because I think all businesses are going to have that intention and ultimately that goal. But fans are smart enough to know, anyone who's following a social media account or listening to this is going to be smart enough to know when they're being marketed to most of the time, and when they're being asked to do something or asked to execute a behavior most of the time. And so it's okay to have those goals in mind and to know that there are going to be spots that you need to pick, where you need to push those things. But I think you have to deliver value and meet them where they're at before you get to the point where they're ready to meet you where you're at. So it's kind of like a reciprocal exchange where I'm giving value, I'm giving value, I'm giving value. Oh yeah, here's this thing. ESPN does it all the time. We have, hey, ESPN Plus is here. So we're going to give you this snippet of content, or we're going to give you this piece of valuable entertainment that you're consuming or that you like. And then maybe we'll ask you one out of X number of times to kind of convert or to look for more and to meet us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen that with the advertisements and the snippets that you guys have shared from ESPN Plus from Peyton's Places, right? Mm-hmm. And I got to see some of it. It wasn't just just completely tease the content. And, if you want to see anything, sign up and this is the cost and here's where you go to sign up. Actually releasing some of that. I mean, it goes back to what, Gary Vee has always talked about. So many people go for the right hook way too early. There's a time for the right hook, but you've got to jab a lot before you do that. Give before you ask. So I just completely align with that sentiment, Tyler. And I know our entire team at Sweetfish does. Let's take it from there and talk about the next thing that I know is important to you guys. And that's this aspect of storytelling. So I think anyone following any social accounts or brands from ESPN is going to pick up on this pretty easily, that you guys have moved a long time ago away from just, hey, here's a highlight and here's who won and here's the box score. But tell us a little bit about how that's evolved. You've been at ESPN for a while, as we talked about. What's kind of the state and your take on storytelling as it relates to your social media strategies at ESPN?
Yeah, storytelling is a cornerstone of ESPN's content and has been from the time that the company was started in 1979. But it's evolving, like you said, every day, and it's evolving every year for these different platforms. Social media is a very short form platform where all these different apps are asking you to tell stories in different ways and at different lengths than what we're used to, which might be a 5-minute feature on TV or a 3-minute feature on TV. It's no, we have about 10 to 15 seconds to get your attention, sometimes less than that. So you can tell stories with the video, you can tell stories with your copy, which is how you're teeing up the post. And it's just a very, very important part of everything that we're doing, because we know that how we tell the story is going to make people feel. Like the way that you frame the content is going to make people feel what they're going to feel about it. And that's what they'll remember. So one example of storytelling is 2 days ago, the grandson of Red Sox legend Carl Yastrzemski, who played for the Red Sox and was beloved in the city. His grandson was playing his first game at Fenway Park, which is the Boston Red Sox home park. And we teed up this video of Mike Yastrzemski, his grandson, hitting a home run in his first game at Fenway Park. And we could have said, Mike Yastrzemski is, this is what he is. He's the grandson of Carl Yastrzemski, and he hit this home run. But we wanted to make you feel, we wanted to make it hit home. We want to say, this is awesome. This is incredible. Mike Yastrzemski, grandson of Red Sox legend Carl Yastrzemski, hits a home run in his first game at Fenway Park. And we have an emoji in there or something that's shows that this is a human thing. This is a human story that we're telling. And time and again, we see that human stories outperform sports stories 100% of the time. Our highest performing content of the year is almost always a human story more than it's a sports highlight of LeBron dunking. It's a highlight of a kid at a baseball game, giving his foul ball to another kid. It's a video of a Special Olympian, lifting a weight that he was previously unable to get and then celebrating that. Those are the stories that cut through and that resonate the most.
Yeah, I love that. I think, what I pull out of that for B2B marketing is remember that even though it's B2B, it's H to H. It's still human to human. There are still humans within the four walls of the organizations that we're marketing to, like we talk about here on our H to H series on B2B growth. And so thinking about, okay, we're talking to marketers, or we're talking to lawyers, or we're talking to people in healthcare. What else is going on in their lives, and how can we highlight the stories of the practitioners in the space that we're trying to serve? Much like you guys do it well in and around sports, but like you said, it's not always on the nose. It's the highlight of LeBron, or it's just the highlight of the home run. It's the backstory. So I think the lesson there is to take a little bit of time to uncover those, because they might not just hit you right in the face, especially in a B2B environment. But if you take some time to uncover those, and then you put your storytelling muscles to work on your team, it can just make for some social content gold. So let's go from there, Tyler, and talk about the humanizing your brand. We just talked about, humanizing your stories, connecting with people on a human level. One of the things that we keep repeating here at Sweetfish is that people connect with other people more than they do with logos. So I would love for you to speak to that from the standpoint of, running social at ESPN, and then, what B2B brands can think about when it comes to this idea of humanizing the brand and being more human in your marketing.
Yeah, so I think that humanizing the brand does relate to storytelling and does relate to human stories like you were pointing out and like I was talking about. And I think in a B2B space, those things, if they are able to resonate with humans and resonate in a way that makes you feel and makes you remember, I think that story still resonates in a B2B environment, and it's pointing out needs, or it's addressing needs that they're having, and it's hopefully bringing that brand's approachability client to client. It's raising their approachability and making them more desirable of a partner in that space. And when we talk about humanizing the brand, like you said, people more than they connect with logos. We see influencer. That's why influencers are such a thing. It's a part of our culture now because of these social platforms, and people being more marketable than brands is what drives up the value of influencers and makes them so prevalent today. We see the engagement and the amount of fan interaction on their accounts be so much higher, even within ESPN. Adrian Wojnarowski is the lead NBA Twitter reporter. He has the most followers of anybody in that space. He created an Instagram account a year and a half ago, and his account grew faster by far than any ESPN account did over the course of that time, as he was a human, and the level of engagement of fans on his account just is supremely higher than it is for our NBA on ESPN account as a comparison point, which has more followers, but it's a brand versus Adrian is a person, and people attach to his ideas and his thoughts and relate to them more because of that. And so if you're able to turn that into your brand strategy, or use human language as a brand, or treat your followers like they're your actual friends or people you might see next week, that's going to help you more than being a commercial on a TV.
Yeah, and I think taking advantage of the person, not taking advantage of, but leveraging the personalities and the expertise that you have within your walls as a B2B brand. You make a great point there. Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter are other folks, sports personalities that I follow more so than I do, NFL Twitter handle or something like that. And so I see that play out in just my own life as a sports fan myself. So I think that really rings true. So, I mean, I look at those guys, and even on a more local level, there are folks who are really active on social. I'm a huge Broncos fan, and there are folks there that, it's not a brand account. It's someone who's been following the team very closely, puts out their own insights and analysis. And so when they're like, oh, hey, we're promoting something, I kind of want to support them, right? Because I've connected with them on a human level, but I've connected because for so long, they're just delivering value. Like they're either entertaining or they're providing insights and analysis that I think are fun and those sorts of things. So I think as much as we can take that and apply it to a B2B environment, I think that you can definitely learn something there. Well, Tyler, this has been a great conversation, man. I could talk sports and social media and marketing. It's like perfect trifecta to have just a long conversation with you, but I want to be conscious of your time. So as we wrap it up today, if anybody listening to this would like to ask any follow-up questions or just stay connected with you, what's the best way for them to reach out, man?
Tyler Dimich on LinkedIn is the quickest connection. You can also, I do have social media platforms, which seems fitting. So I'm open to that connection on Instagram. I don't really use Twitter. So I would go with Instagram or LinkedIn as a starting point, and I'll be there. Tyler Dimich.
Tyler Dimich. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing some knowledge with folks today. Really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, Logan.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.